Can you hear me well? Great. Welcome everyone. Navigating the Drupal labyrinth, what I wish I knew when starting Drupal. Catchy title for having you coming here, sharing with me my trauma of becoming a Drupal dev, so thank you for being here, especially after lunch. This is me. My name is Maya. I'm a Drupal developer and trainer at Evolving Web. You've heard a lot about Evolving Web since this morning, so we're a web agency. We're based in Montreal. And yeah, basically I'm working for the company for almost 2 years now. This is what I'm going to talk about today. So first of all, I'll give you a bit of context and explain how I ended up using Drupal in the first place. I explained to you how it was for me at the beginning to learn everything and get a grasp of Drupal. I'll try to give you tricks, tools, so you can flatten your learning curve in Drupal. Drupal every day, we are going to talk about what you can do in your day-to-day work with Drupal to keep being efficient with Drupal. And then, hopefully, I'll have some time for questions. Before starting, I'd like to say, like kind of a disclaimer, I'm going to show you some tools, software, products. I'm not paid by any of those companies or software to tell you that. It's just what works for me and hopefully what will work for you. So first of all, how did I end up using Drupal? Bit of context. So this is my resume in 2019. I used to be a journalist. I was specializing in print media and photography. I worked across several newsrooms in France. I never wrote a single line of code in my life at that time. I didn't have an opinion about PHP because I didn't know what PHP was. And of course, I've never heard of Drupal. So that was me in 2019 when I decided to change career path and become a developer. So what I did at that time was to do a 5-month bootcamp on PHP and Symfony at that time. And so I learned the basics, but really the basics of PHP, HTML, CSS, Git, some command line tools, and that was it. And then, to my great surprise, I was hired just after that bootcamp by a company in France that was looking for people like me, like that were new to web development, but had some previous experience in another field. And so that's what my manager at that time told me. We've been looking for a Drupal dev for over a year. That's going to be you. At that time, I had 7 months of experience in web development, none of it with Drupal. I've never heard of Drupal before. That's not entirely true because sometimes when you Google Symfony errors, you end up on Drupal.org because Symfony being the under the hood of Drupal, the errors are kind of the same. But that's all I knew about Drupal. And so I was assigned a mentor, a developer who still is a great developer and a very patient man. That was assigned to me, and he helped me go through everything. And it was, even with a mentor, it was a bumpy road. The company I was working for was not specialized in Drupal, and so they had no or little documentation about what they were doing on their projects, on their Drupal project. And so I learned on the job. And this is the first task that I was assigned to as a Drupal dev. So I had to create a custom module, import some CSV files from the server, transform them into PO files, put everything into Drupal. We had 25 websites that were running on a multi-site installation, make it run on a daily basis, and basically that was it. In your opinion, how long did it take me to do that? Like to do that with the help of my mentor? Any guess?
1 week.
3 months. It took me 3 months to complete that with constant input from my mentor. So he was helping me, but he also wanted me to discover how it works. So I was doing something, he was correcting me, like, no, it's more like that. And then I was doing it and doing it again. As a journalist, I produced 1 to 5 articles a day. 3 months without producing anything useful. That was a long time. So it was a struggle. And then I had other tasks to deal with, and it was I was kind of always struggling with that, learning on the job without any other support that my mentor that was also working on the project, that was hard. So, as every tech product, Drupal has its own ecosystem of things and way of doing things, and you need to understand everything in order to be proficient. So you have to know what the Drupal API is, what the core contributing custom layers are, medias, modules, what are those, Drush, nodes, etc. And you have, when you start working with Drupal, so many questions like, how come my website configuration lives in my database and in my code base at the same time? And how do I synchronize all that? Like, how do I send my variables to my tweak template? Or how do I display a view in a paragraph? Or who is this composer guy everybody is talking about? and everything. You have lots of new things to learn. Even if you come from a tech background, this is very specific to Drupal, and you have to learn all of this. And so the first month of your career will pretty much look like that. Like, you are going to be using Drush here, which is the command line tool to clear the cache in Drupal every time you do something new on your website, just to be sure that you clear your cache to see if what you've done is working. And you're going to clear the cache, clear all of the layers of the cache, just to be sure that you've done it right. So this habit of clearing the cache is something that will hopefully stick with you for the rest of your career. So now that I've made my point and said that yes, Drupal is hard to learn, what could we do to flatten the learning curve? My first advice would be obvious, but it's learn the basics. Like, having a global understanding of what Drupal is, what Drupal does, will save you lots of time in your career. I didn't have that, as I mentioned, in my career. And it took me months and even years to catch up and to understand basic things, really, about Drupal. Because I was working on specific tasks, specific tickets. Like I said, I was learning on the job, but I was missing the big picture for a very long time. So invest in training. There is Drupal.org with lots of now up-to-date documentation, so this is a good place to start. You can find some useful things on YouTube as well, even if it can be outdated. Lots of entities offer good trainings that you can either ask your employees to pay to, or you can pay for it. Drupalize Me is the most known. Mike from Drupal Easy here. Other entities that offer good trainings that can help you bridge the gap in your knowledge. When it comes to written documentation, I find that Drupal at your fingertips is, on top of what Drupal.org offers, a very good way to learn with concrete examples what you can do with Drupal. Like, if you have a question about, how to write a plugin, or how to deal with cache, or batch events, or whatever, Drupal at your fingertips is often a good way to find a quick solution and how you can actually implement it on your project. And you should go to Drupal events, because of course, going to those events will have you discuss with everybody, and in this way you can keep your knowledge up to date. Of course, at Evolving Web, we are offering some training as well. We have actually a large catalog of trainings. We have some general trainings that you can take, or you can ask for more custom ones, like to work on your website, to train your content editors maybe, or your developers to work with your Drupal website. It covers front-end and back-end, and we have very skilled trainers. I'm one of them. I'm not the most senior, but I'm one of them. And so I'd be glad to talk to you about what we can offer in terms of training. We also offer basic trainings at Eve of Drupal, which is the event that we organize a few times a year across North America, which brings me here to my next slide. The next Eve of Drupal is in Boston in June 6th, meaning that the 3 days before that, we're going to have 3 days of training that will cover the basics like Drupal site building and architecture, Drupal module development, and Drupal theming with SDC and Tailwind CSS. So with those 3 trainings, you will have a global understanding, a good start to start working with Drupal. Now Drush. If you want to be a good Drupal dev, Drush needs to become your new best friend. So Drush is the command line tool that you use to interact with your Drupal website and its database. And on top of Drush CR, that is the command that you will use to rebuild the cache, Drush will help you synchronize and update your database, enable, manage your modules, and execute custom scripts maybe, and also, and this is very important, generate boilerplate code. Like I said, Drupal comes with its own ways of doing things, and Drush knows it all. There is a command that's called Drush generate, with which you can generate whatever you want. You need to create a new module, Drush generate can do that. A controller, Drush generate can do that. A form, a plugin, an entity, an SDC, a JavaScript file, whatever you need in your Drupal website, basically Drush can generate it and generate it the right way. So this is what the command looks like when you want to create a new module. So as you can see on the top, maybe it's a bit hidden, but Drush generate module, and then you have this wizard that appears, and you just tell Drupal what you want, tell Drush what you want. So the name of the module here is Drupal Camp New Jersey, and then it creates a module description, asks you on which package you want to put it, if it has some dependencies, which file do you want to create with your module, and then once you hit enter in the end, all of it will be created in the right folder with the right structure. So this can save you a lot of time, especially if you're new to Drupal. If you want to create a controller, it will help you know how to do things the right way. Next tool that you need to use is ddev, to focus on your Drupal. Like I said, Drupal is complicated enough. You don't want to become a Docker magician on top of that, just to be able to run your project on your local environment. Docker, for those who don't know, it's a tool basically that helps developers package applications that you need, PHP and whatever you need to make your Drupal website running, and that you can use on every, across your team to have exactly the same environment for everyone. So with ddev, which is, by the way, the preferred tool, the official tool used by the Drupal community to develop on local environments, you can create a project in a heartbeat. Maybe not exactly in a heartbeat. If it lasts a heartbeat, maybe you should consider having an appointment with your cardiologist, but it's still very fast. And you can manage several projects at the same time, which is very great. Usually when you, and it's my case, when you work in a web agency, you're not working on only one project. You have several projects that you are going to work on for the week or even in the same day. And having that kind of tool that allows you to switch quickly between one project to another without having any kind of trouble is super useful. The documentation is very good. It's an open source project, and they are currently looking for contributors, looking for funding. So if you're interested in that, you can go on Drupal.org and see what they're asking. So, bonus point with ddev, it's the official tool chosen by the Drupal community, but you can have your WordPress project work, you can spin an environment to work on your WordPress project, Laravel, Symfony, Node.js, it offers lots of options. It's not only a tool developed for Drupal. One quick example, on the project I'm currently working on, we had recently to update the PHP version on the production server. So what I did before was testing the project on local with that new PHP version to see if everything was okay. All I had to do was to change one line in my ddev config file, restart my containers, and I was working with the new version of PHP to do my test. And during that period, I also had to come back to work on another ticket. So come back to the previous version that we were actually using in production. I just changed that line again, rerun my containers, and it was super fast. And then I went back to my testing with my new PHP configuration. And once it was okay, the project was tested, all I had to do is push that into the Git repo, and all my colleagues just had to pull that and restore the containers. Everybody was working with the same PHP version. So it's easy to use, like you don't have to have, for basic use, you don't have to have any Docker knowledge of that. It's really powerful, really useful, and it's fast as well. Another great tool, which I discovered only recently, that's a shame, is the examples for developers module. This one covers a lot of topics that are within the Drupal core. Like it's only for the core APIs of Drupal, but in it you have 33 sub-modules that will help you with, I don't know, if you want to work with, again, plugins, entities, it will help you find some useful example of well-written, well-documented code, and the module is always up to date. So whenever you have something to change in the behavior of the Drupal core, take a look at those sub-modules, take a look at their names, and maybe you will find, okay, this is what I need to do, and you will have like a valid example of what to do in that module. It's only for the core APIs, but there are other modules that also have example sub-modules in them. For example, the web form module that we widely use to, well, build web forms on Drupal, it has an example module that you can use to change the handlers of your web forms or that kind of things, like with updated, well-written examples. Join the community. I mean, you're here today, so that's a good sign. But that's something I also did very late in my young Drupal career. Like my first talk, or my first participation in a Drupal event was actually here last year in this same place. So create a profile on Drupal.org. This will also put you on the map for the Drupal community. And if you want to add an issue on a module that you're working on, your profile on Drupal.org will help you do that. And if later in your career you want to contribute, fix something, or contribute to the global Drupal community, you're going to need a profile on Drupal.org. That's my first advice. There are lots of modules out there that are developed by the community. And I want to insist on that it's possible on your Drupal website to write custom code for everything. Like you could just write PHP, JavaScript, CSS, whatever you want to do, any feature on your Drupal website. And that's a bad idea. Like there are hundreds, literally hundreds of modules that you can use that are here, that are contributed, maintained by the community. And this is a great help. Like it will save you time and help you have time to only focus on the features on your website that are not covered by the community, because maybe you're using some kind of software you need to connect to your Drupal website that is not widely used, and you need to do that in a custom way. But the more you can use modules, the better it is for you, for your website also, because in the long run, when you're going to have to maintain your website, those modules that come from the community, they are going to be maintained by the community. It's not your job to do that. You can, of course, contribute if you see an error on your website and contribute back, but those modules are going to be maintained, and this is a lot less work for you. You can join Drupal Slack to ask questions if you have. There are always people willing to help on the different channels of Drupal Slack, or just even to take a look at what they are discussing. It might give you ideas or good practices to do things. Go to events. Again, you're here today, so I think that's pretty obvious to stay up to date with your Drupal knowledge. And of course, AI. We live in the age of AI. So Drupal has been around for more than 20 years now. So AI tools know a lot about it. It can help you have quick answers on like, how can I do that with Drupal? What's the best practice in that case? It can also generate boilerplate code. Be careful with that. It's not always a good idea to use what AI is going to provide you, but it can be a good starting point. Those are the 4 AI tools that I've been using so far, mostly ChatGPT and Mistral AI. Claude and DeepSeek, I don't know them that much. I know that Claude is good for code, but I don't have that much experience with that. But ChatGPT and Mistral, they give pretty good results. One advice though, use that with caution, like don't put into an AI that is online code that you wrote or that your colleagues wrote or your entire code base. That's not a good practice. If you have, on the other hand, large language model on your computer, you can try to play with it and feed it with your code to see what you can do with it. But online, that's not a good idea, in my opinion. Now that we have that kind of understanding of what you can do to flatten your learning curve, how do you keep being efficient on a day-to-day basis with Drupal? A good IDE can save your life. I'm a great fan of open source products and I try as much as I can to use them, but I make an exception for PHP Storm, and again, I'm not paid by JetBrains like the PHP Storm editor to say you that, but I've been using it for my whole career as a dev, and it is really a great tool to have, to have PHP Storm to develop with Drupal. Drupal is really well integrated into PHP Storm. So you will have code hints, refactoring hints, you can navigate your files easily, like it will understand what you're doing with Drupal, and it will help you a lot. You can also add useful plugins to it, the same way you can with VS Code. I don't have much experience with VS Code. I know that I have colleagues that work with VS Code, backend developers that work with VS Code, and they are pretty happy with it. So it just needs more configuration to work really well with Drupal. But you can use VS Code, which is an open source solution, to develop with Drupal. But PHP Storm, to me and to most of my colleagues that I spoke of when I was preparing this talk, PHP Storm is the best solution to go, in our opinion. It also has some Git management tools. I prefer to use Git in the command line, but if you're not really comfortable with that, PHP Storm and I think VS Code as well can help you manage your branches and your project with a nice UI, so it can be useful as well. And I rely on this software so much. I really hope it's not going to be discontinued because it will make my life less fun. The Devil module. Devil is a module that has been there for more than 20 years as well. It provides a lot of hints and wealth of information about your Drupal site, about your I don't know, detailed about your current request, your database queries, and so on. A lot of debugging tools as well. You can have like pretty dumps of your variable thanks to the Devil module. It comes also with a lot of not a lot, but some sub-modules that you can use. The most useful to me being Devil generate. Like for example, if you are working on a new website and your task is to create a view that should display 50 nodes, 50 events, let's say, on a page with a pagination, like 50 events per page. Once your view is created, if you want to test it, you will have to have at least 51 events on your Drupal website to test it and to see if it actually works. Devil generate can help you in a few clicks to generate as much events as you want, as long as the content types already exist on your website. And you can do that with events, nodes, taxonomies, whatever you have on your website. So it's pretty useful to do some testing and to have some dummy content, but content that you can work with. You can execute PHP code easily with Devil as well, and it gives you new Drush commands to play with, and especially the generate commands that you can use in the command line as well. So these are dumps made by, I think this was the KSM function with Devil. So as you can see, you have your variables, instead of being all over the place, it's organized with drop-downs and it's easier to find what you're looking for. At some point, going from drop-down to drop-down, you see that you don't have all of the info loaded on your page, but it's useful to have a good understanding of what Drupal is processing on the page you're working at the moment. The last tool I would recommend is Xdebug, and it is by far the best debugging tool that I use on a daily basis. And again, when I went to my colleagues at Evaluating, I'm saying, okay, what are the tools that you use on a daily basis that you couldn't work without? And Xdebug almost always came on top. Okay, this is a very useful tool to go deep into what Drupal is doing at a specific moment, and I'll show you an example just after that. But yeah, it makes you the master of time. Like, you can stop whatever your Drupal application is doing at a very specific moment by using breakpoints on your code, and this will help you see what and inspect everything Drupal is doing, everything Drupal has in store at a very specific moment. You can get lost because Drupal usually has a lot in store at any given moment, but this way you can inspect all the things that you have at that specific moment and change and test things on the fly, especially if you're using PHP Storm. That's really easy, like to take the variables that you have and play with them to see what you can get out of them, and yes, before writing your actual code. So it saves you a lot of time. Instead of doing that in dumps, for example, like we saw with Devil, you just put a breakpoint, your code stops at that point, and with your IDE, you are able to change whatever you want in your variables and see what it does. Instead of doing a change, reload your page, doing a change, reload your page, change screen, you can do all that in your IDE, and again, it will save you time. I've been saying that a lot today, but all of that will save you time in the end, and this is the great thing. So if you're using ddev, PHP Storm, and Xdebug, you're all set, basically. So this, what it could look like. So in this example, I put a breakpoint in a preprocess function in a module file, and so you see that when Xdebug reaches, when my PHP Drupal application reaches that point, it's stopped by Xdebug on the red point that I have in here. And here are my variables and everything, and there's even more on the bottom, everything that I have in here. So I have my HTML, because this was a preprocess HTML function. And so I have my HTML, I have all of the elements of my page, I have my page top, head title and everything, and I can change all that and play with that, see what I have. And you can go with that tool way deeper than you can with dumps. Like I said on the previous in here, with the drop downs, at some point it will just stop, and you will know that you have some more information in that, some more data, but you won't be able to access it. With Xdebug, you can go as far as you want. Like, all the drop downs here don't stop until you're at the end of what Drupal has installed. So that's pretty convenient to see all that you have, and in a way to learn how Drupal structure things and how you can change things and recreate them to meet your needs. And of course, AI again. I use AI almost every day as a developer, mainly to remind me how do I do that with Drupal, because I've been doing Drupal for 4 years now. I have kind of some experience with it, but from time to time I forget what to do, how to do this, how to do that. Going with AI is always quicker than asking for some dumb advice, not dumb advice, but something I should know to a senior developer, more senior developer. So I use AI to do that. It can give you quick answers if you have to work on a proof of concept or brainstorming. It can be helpful. Again, the AI tools that are around know a lot about Drupal, so you should use these tools. And sometimes just writing your prompt can help you. Like, having to write down what your problem is might just, by doing that, help you fixing it. It's the same way as discussing with somebody and trying to explain your problem to someone, since that's what you do with AI. It can help you. So, conclusion, some stickers. It's supposed to be a pink heart behind all of those, but doesn't matter. Oh, it's here. Nice. So, keep in mind, and that's the most important thing, that developing with Drupal can be fun, is fun. So, and you will get there. Like, there are tools out there to help you do that. Use them. They are here for you. Most of them are free. So, yeah, again, best advice, join the community, talk to people. But with those tools, you might be good to go on with your developer career in the Drupal world. That was all for me. This is my LinkedIn profile. I'm going to do a post after the conference about all those tools, so you can find them again. The recording will be available, of course. And if you have some questions or remarks, even if there are some more senior developers in the room that want to add something, some tools, useful tools that they use, you're more than welcome. So that's it for me.
Is there a particular AI tool you recommend?
A particular, AI tool?
Which AI tool do you use?
I'm using Mistral AI the most, mostly because they're French and I'm French too. So that's the main. I mean, I've tried, like I said, 4 different tools, and they are working well. ChatGPT is good. Claude is supposed to be better, but I don't have much experience with it. So I know that Simon is not here, but Simon from Evolving Web, our CTO, he has experience with Claude and he's using it. So maybe I can catch up with him and go back to you. But yeah, Mr. AI works well for me.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I'll add that if you're going to DrupalCon Atlanta, there is a, going back to your contribute slide,
Yep.
there's a, if you're, I believe that getting involved in contributions is one of the best ways to learn, because you're getting some street cred and you're also like learning from people who do it every day. But there's 3 first-time contributor workshops going on at DrupalCon Atlanta, which are great. You learn the tools that are used and kind of the processes. And then Thursday of DrupalCon Atlanta is Contribution Day with Mentored Contribution. So if you take that first-time contributors workshop, then you can get paired up with a mentor at a table at DrupalCon Atlanta and actually work on an issue and see how that actually works over the course of the day. So that's a good way to like start getting involved and learning some of these tools.
True.
I have a couple questions. How many hours were you working
How many?
per day in 3 months to learn Drupal? Because that's
Oh, I didn't learn Drupal in those 3 months. It was a painful experience. I was working at that time. I think it was 38 hours a day.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. 38 hours a week. Yeah, it was my only job. I was doing that all day, and it was in a way it was like a painful experience. But I also learned a lot.
yeah.
What I wish I had at the same time is a global understanding of what I was touching and what I was doing. Like the code I wrote, it was good in the end, but I didn't have any big picture of what it was involved in. Like I was working with translations. I didn't know how translations worked on Drupal. I just knew that what I did was working, and I was missing that bigger picture for a very long time, almost unless I became a trainer myself and I had to teach that to other people. That I had to understand.
Drupal is streamlined.
Yeah.
Its training capacity. So my other question is, you mentioned Drupal Slack.
Yeah.
And I went through the Drupal website to get to that Slack. I can't imagine what that is like. What is your experience And how are you using Drupal Slack?
Honestly, this is also something that I joined recently, like July last year or something like that. I don't go there very often. What I do is to go there to see what people are discussing. I was especially taking a look at the discussions going around Drupal CMS, but I've never answered anyone on that. I know it's not the best thing to say or do, but I've never helped anyone on Drupal Slack, and I've never asked for help. I just know that it works well. And I know that there are people really involved in that, in answering you as quick as they can with the best solution they can come up with. And that's a great asset to have.
There's a specific New Jersey Slack channel, Drupal New Jersey Slack channel, which I find less
Drupal New
intimidating.
Jersey Slack?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's some really good people on there, and I find it less intimidating than that entire worldwide Drupal global community.
Well, we can give it a try. I'm sure you got some, it's like a community out there and you get to know,
Yeah.
but I can't imagine the main international Drupal Slack
Yeah.
must be.
It is a bit. The nice thing about the New Jersey community is, even though it's small, there's some really, really strong people in that,
Yeah.
and they can act as a bridge into the bigger community if you need that.
The community aspect of Drupal is really the most important to me, like, and something I realized only too late. Like with the community, those kind of events, those kind of people that we have in here are the ones that make Drupal thrive and continue to be on top of all the CMSs and with the latest technologies and everything. This is how it works. It's great to see it work, but yes, I realized that maybe too late in my career. I'm trying to contribute as much as I can now, but as a young developer, knowing that you can have that kind of support from the community is great, and you shouldn't be afraid to ask. There are
Just
no
to
dumb
give you a
questions.
perspective, like I started learning Drupal in 2006. I don't know how many others in the room are like that. And it maybe took me 2 years, 3 years to learn all the ins and outs. And that includes hacking of sites for clients. I mean, a lot of crisis management. But I'm glad to know that it has streamlined and is a lot safer.
It's
But that was my experience of learning Drupal.
yeah. From what I could gather from my more experienced colleagues, that like you started to learn Drupal a long time ago. Now is the best time to learn Drupal. Like back in the days, the documentation was not great. It was harder to get information about how Drupal worked. Now it's way better.
That's good.
I
Yes.
was just going to add to Georgette, you're not already on Slack at all?
Oh, no, I'm on Slack. I've
Okay.
been on Slack for a long time.
Okay.
How many Slacks I've been on? I can't count.
Okay.
Do you guys use Slack?
We're
I
on
thought
Slack,
you
yeah, I
were
was
on
like-
Princeton.
No, we're on Slack.
You're on Slack. So
I was
now we're
gonna-
moving the departments, just so you know. Just found out on Wednesday we have to use Teams.
Yeah.
So, because even here at Princeton, I'm on 5 Slacks. The OIT, the web development, there's 5 Slacks that I'm on. So, and I don't have a paid account, so I have to log out and then log in. It's really cumbersome, but now they want us to go to Microsoft Team chat, for
We
the
should,
departments.
we should talk after. I was going to add you to the New Jersey one to make it easier if you'd like.
So, like, somebody tell me which one to use because it's going to get really crazy. Thank you.
Other questions? Yeah.
We were just talking about the Slack channels. What's your name?
Ian,
Ian mentioned there's a New Jersey Slack, and there's also a wide
Drupal Slack. Yes.
Slack, yeah.
I guess the Drupal New Jersey is like a channel in that Drupal. Yeah. So yeah, there are different channels in that Slack from different smaller communities. But there is a general channel as well where you can ask questions or different like on channels on
What's the name of
specific
this- What's Drupal Slack it's called?
Drupal Slack.
If you go to drupal.org/slack,
Okay,
that's where you start.
Yeah, it comes right up.
okay.
All right. Thank you for sharing all that. Thank you.